Corey from Liberated Performer, and in this video we are going to talk about how to prepare for your Zoom auditions and also how to take advantage of your Zoom auditions. Now we will break this video down into a couple segments. The first is a mental aspect, technique, artistry, and the technical Zoom settings. Let's begin with the mental aspect. The number one priority is to get into performance mode. What is performance mode? Performance mode is when you have a little bit of adrenaline to awaken your mind and body, to help you focus, and ultimately to help you convey the emotions and characters of the music to the judge. So why is this challenging? Well, when we are taking auditions from home, it's comfortable, it's safe, and it's a lot more relaxing than if you're in the actual audition situation itself. So what are some tips? The first one is to go outside, get some fresh air and kind of reawaken your body and come back energized and ready to perform. The second one is to create performance structure beforehand. So when you're in your bedroom and you're practicing, make sure you're also practicing performing, because we want to have the experience of performing our audition like a real performance before we get to the actual Zoom audition. The third is to eliminate distractions. So any distractions you have at home, such as your phone, other programs on the computer, or that music in the background, outside music, I mean, who knows, right? Your family members, your pets. Make sure you reduce as many distractions as possible, because in the real audition, you are just, with your instrument, the judge, and you're just making music. Another tip is to get inspired by other performances. So usually when I'm kind of in a rut, I like to go to live performances. I like to get inspired by my friends, my peers, and my role models. Now, we can't exactly do that right now, so the best thing is just to go online and find some inspirational programs and inspire you to perform. Now, this next suggestion is probably the most important of all, and that is to record your mock audition. So call a family member or a friend and go through your audition. Now, after you recorded your mock audition, you can watch your mock audition, and that'll help you a lot. And I want you to look at it from a few angles. The first angle is to check if your audio and video settings are good. So does your microphone need to be higher, lower, to the left, to the right, closer to you, or farther back for the best sound? How is your camera angle? Does it look funny, or is there any weird background distractions that are taking away the focus from you? Now, the most important question you must ask when you're watching your recorded mock audition is, what elements come across Zoom? And this leads us to the next category, technique and artistry over Zoom. Let's start with the elements that are heavily affected by Zoom. The first one is your sound quality, right? No matter how nice of a microphone you have, your sound quality will not be as accurately represented as if it were in person. Now, similar to sound quality is tone color. So as a judge, you can see somebody technically change and get a different tone color, but again, the difference is subtle and not as obvious as in person. Now, another aspect that is also heavily changed are articulations. Like, for example, if I'm playing a spiccato, da 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 da, and I do a nice little accent, da, you can hear the difference, but at the same time, some of it will be lost in translation. Now, the last element that's heavily affected are dynamics. How often is it that we record into a device and the first thing we notice, besides intonation, that the dynamics sound pretty much the same? And this is very common, and this is something you don't want to fall into. What elements are represented more accurately over Zoom? Well, let's start with intonation. If you're sharp or flat, you can usually tell over Zoom. There's no real hiding the intonation quality. Another one is timing, and that's funny because if you have really bad internet problems or something like that, sometimes the Zoom frame just freezes and then it catches up like 4 bars later, or sometimes even in Skype, if you're doing auditions over Skype, right, it just kind of fast forwards and rushes and catches up. But assuming that you have good internet connection, the judge can tell what kind of timing you're going for musically. Now, surprisingly, the last element that is actually not as affected by Zoom are your characters and purpose and artistic intention. So it's similar to like if you have a friend or family member across the sea and then you FaceTime with them, right? You can still feel emotionally connected with them. And that's the crazy thing, right? The audio might not be as good, but at least you can feel the emotional connection that still comes through, and that's important to know as well. So with these groups of elements that are heavily affected by Zoom and this other group that's not as affected, by Zoom, what are some strategies we can implement? Well, let's take dynamics, for example, right? We know that they're going to be compressed and they're not going to be as clear. Well, if I want to exaggerate my dynamics to make it clear, the first thing I ask is, what can I technically translate? Well, as a violinist, I'm going to check my bow distribution. So I'm going to really exaggerate my bow distribution. So as a judge, I hear someone playing a very clear piano, or I hear somebody phrasing beautifully, very linearly, or I hear somebody with a very clear forte. And even if I don't hear it, I can at least see it through their bow distribution that they know that this section is a forte, they know this section is a piano. Now let's take the characters and emotions. So we also want to exaggerate this. And this is really important because it's a strength of Zoom. I mean, Zoom is fundamentally a video platform, right? So to take advantage of this and to convey and build an even stronger emotional connection with the music, and thus translating it and conveying it to the judge, will create a really rewarding experience on the other side of the camera. Now, the next suggestion is to use the visual component even more. Now, we often talk about choreography, for example, how your movements match and enhance your artistic vision. For example, that's clearly a firm, strong character with a attention to a downbeat, clear as day, right? Versus, now in a live audition, if you did, but you backed it up with great technical translation, a nice accent, great lane in the bridge, the judges would hear that. But since sometimes things get lost over Zoom, you can afford yourself to exaggerate what you're going for. So for example, if I go, but then I don't actually technically translate it as well, the judge will see clearly your intention that you are really going for a strong downbeat here. And even though they don't hear it as well over Zoom, they can at least acknowledge that you went for that downbeat. Now, if your audition includes playing with some sort of backing track or click track, make sure to take advantage of this, because in normal auditions, right, you're playing with maybe a collaborative pianist and you have to kind of go back and forth. It's a beautiful relationship. You're leading, you're listening, you're also listening and leading at the same time. But here, the backing track is kind of the king, right? It's telling you exactly what timing to take, and that's something you should use to your advantage by practicing with that backing track like a million times until that timing is just ingrained in you. There's no timing surprises at all. And again, because it's ingrained in you and there's no surprises, it actually affords you the freedom to make even more music, knowing that the timing is set in stone. So make sure to dominate this aspect of the audition in your Zoom audition. And if you want to dominate more auditions, make sure to subscribe to Liberated Performer for more videos about audition and performance success. And we pride ourselves on putting out concise, direct, and proven strategies to you. Now, our last category is to familiarize yourself with Zoom itself. And this goes with one of our big principles, whether it's online or in person, which is to never let logistics cause more anxiety, right? You're always going to have anxiety or excitement or energy when the audition comes around, and you certainly don't want to have it accumulate to things you know you have control over. So go visit some Zoom instructional videos that are professional and practice Zooming. I'm just going to quickly go through my own individual settings. So I'm going to go to audio. I'm going to go to input and make sure it's my nicest microphone I got. I'm going to go to advanced settings, disable both of these. I'm going to check the camera angle. Turn off unnecessary internet sites, make sure I'm not uploading or downloading anything. Also closing programs so my computer has enough memory. So in conclusion, I hope you found this video helpful with some small adjustments. But ultimately, you need to know how to prepare for auditions, whether it's online or in person. And to do that, you should check out the video in the link below where I talk about the Liberated Performer theory of audition and performance success. Anyway, thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.